Gervonta Davis and Jake Paul. They had their first two press conferences to kick off this clown show. 10-rounder, 195 max limit for Jake Paul.
I mean, we're talking about a massive size difference here.
This would be a David versus Goliath fight, but it's not a fight. It's an exhibition.
I don't know if it's going to play out like an exhibition match or if like Tank is actually going to go in there with the sole intention of knocking Jake's head off.
Knockouts are allowed for the exhibition. That's one of the rules, right? They are allowed.
A reporter asked Tank if he was the face of boxing now. I saw a Tank quote saying, "I'm not the face of boxing. I'm just a guy who boxes."
They asked Tank, "What about your legacy?" And he goes, "I'm not really worried about that right now. I'm just worried about just fighting." Are you going to, in 10 years, look back and be like, damn, that resume looks weak as fuck?
What do we think about this fight, though? I mean, obviously, Gervonta Davis has much better skills, but he does have the size, the reach, and the weight. Who's going to win?
Welcome back to another episode of the Last Round Podcast, where we cover everything from traditional boxing to influencer boxing and everything in between. In today's episode, we'll be going over Gervonta Davis versus El Gallo Jake Paul, as well as the rumored matchups between Teofimo Lopez, Shakur Stevenson, and Lamont Roach versus Pitbull Cruz. But before we get into the episode, make sure to like and subscribe and follow us on all forms of social media. Lastly, we're trying to build up a community on Discord, and you guys joining would be greatly appreciated. And now, diving into the episode, first thing we'll be talking about is Gervonta Davis and Jake Paul, because past weekend they had their official first two press conferences to kick off this clown show, in my opinion. And we got a lot of things revealed to us during these press conferences, more notably the actual rules of the official bout between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis. But before we even go over the rules, what were you guys' thoughts about the press conference?
Yeah, about the press conference, the one thing that I can take out of it was the fact that the edit that Jake Paul put on his social media page of him and Gervonta Davis kissing. So I feel like for you to call it a clown show, that's kind of how I feel too. Those sentiments resonate with me.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it really is. I don't know. Jake loves to do. He's a great marketer, and that video was crazy. But I think another striking thing was, obviously the weight and the size difference. I mean, Jake Paul is huge compared to Tank Davis. It's night and day. I mean, it really does resemble like a clown show type performance or a clown show fight where, a guy is it's like David versus Goliath. So that's obviously massive. And also, we got the rules now. Jake Paul can't weigh over 195 pounds. And Tank, he obviously doesn't have any weight limit, so it's going to be interesting to see what weight he comes in at, because he doesn't really get big, blow up, get real fat anymore. I want to see what his I guess this is going to show us his natural walk around fight weight, where he's prepared, he's ready, but he's not, on the weight cut to 135. So it's going to be interesting to see that as well.
Yeah, I think for me, I wasn't even thinking about that, but I think the weight is going to be a huge factor. Well, maybe not too much of a huge factor, but I feel like I'm just very surprised what you said, what weight Tank is going to go into the fight. I mean, when he fought at 140, he looked a little bit chunky. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even then, I don't even think he, once he made the 140 limit, I don't even think he gained that many pounds, because even if he did, he would have been a lot more chunkier. So now that he's going up to 195... I'm interested to see how much he's going to weigh. I'm guessing maybe 147.
Yeah, I agree. I think so too. And I think it's funny too because they got the building was changed. They were gonna fight. I don't remember exactly where.
Atlanta.
Yeah, I believe they were gonna fight in Atlanta. I think that's correct. And they switched it because I'm not sure if this is verified, but I did hear that the athletic commissioner, one of the top guys, didn't want to sanction this fight. He said it makes no sense. I mean, these guys are way too big or way too different in weight. I mean, it really doesn't make any sense. And the fight kind of got in jeopardy for a little bit. There was a time period where supposedly the fight was off, thankfully, or I guess not thankfully, depending on if you want to see it or not. I mean, the fight is back on, and it's going to be at a different place, and in Miami, I believe. So, you know, I guess it's gonna. I guess Miami and Florida, you know, so the Freedom State, you know, they sanction anything out there.
Yeah, and I feel like going back to the example that you're giving us, David against Goliath. This would be a David versus Goliath fight, but it's not a fight. It's an exhibition. Let's make that very clear. There's rules to this. There's a reason why there's so many rules to this, and there's a reason why the venue had to get switched. But yeah, like, it's an exhibition. Like, I'm pretty sure we're all gonna have the same feelings that we've had when we have a matchup that maybe the fight fans don't see it as a real fight. We just see it as a clown show. I feel like it leaves us a bad taste in our mouths.
I mean, yeah, that's exactly why I said it's a clown show, because, well, look, first let's go over the official rules. 10-rounder, 195 max limit for Jake Paul. Obviously, like you guys were talking, Tank has the freedom to do what he wants basically at that weight. But the big talking point during the whole press conference was about the gloves. Supposedly under rules it was set for 12-ounce gloves, but then Calvin Ford, aka Tank's trainer, came out, you know, saying like, yo, why don't we switch him, right? Let's do like 8 or what was he doing, 10-ounce gloves, right? Because there's already a big weight disparity. Why can't we have like a disparity in the gloves, you know? Since you already have the weight advantage, let us have the glove advantage. And then, you know, they're going back and forth about it, but like, shouldn't this shit have been figured out during the whole, like during the contract and stuff when they're negotiating terms and whatnot? I mean, why they're making a big deal out of it right now when the fight's already set, the contract's already signed. So I don't know what the hell's going on there. But I'm not sure if they changed or budged anything about the gloves, but I believe it's still 12-ounce.
Well, I feel like for me, that's just like a little bit of a sideshow. That's a little bit of another talking point for them to be like, oh, did you see at the press conference? Davis's trainer was like, we demand 10 ounces.
Yeah, I think it's like a marketing thing, honestly, because it was like the same thing with Tank when Brian Custer was announcing the rules. His like weight limit of 195, and Tank on the side was like, I thought it was 190. It's not 190. I thought it was 190. You know, so they're just, you know, they're poking fun. They're trying to stir up the fans, the viewers. That's all it is.
Yeah, it's all about talking points, because then they also have a $2 million bet on the side as well.
I think that was one of the funny parts too, because Tank went, how it all started, he went right up to Jake's manager, and he started saying, he's like, how much you want to bet on your boy? How much you want to bet on your boy? And the manager was like, nah, I ain't betting. So then Jake, obviously, he loves doing these bets. I think it's because obviously it's great marketing, and they never really follow through. But for all his opponents, he's always like, let's make a bet, $1 million or whatever. And Tank and him were like, $2 million. They shook on it. And then hours later, Tank went on X and said, nah, I ain't giving him $2 million even if I lose. So it's just like, it's just a bunch of bullshit, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, like, he always does that with every single opponent. So, yeah, I guess I do see the marketing aspect of, you know, them arguing, you know, about the gloves and whatnot. So I can definitely see that.
But one thing that Jake actually did say was the fact that he was like, hey, I have the emails, I have the receipts. Your team wasn't really keen on doing 10-ounce gloves, so we decided to do 12. That's why it is the way it is. But, you know, they kept arguing or whatever. So that's kind of like interesting to me, at least. You know what I'm saying? Tank, which is an elite guy at that weight class, still wanting to go to 12 ounces and then last second want to change it. So I thought that was kind of an eye-opener for me, at least.
I mean, we're talking about a massive size difference here, bro. Like, and I think people, you know, they kind of had it in their mind, you know, okay, on paper, but it's different when you see it in person, how different these guys are, dude. Jake Paul is a big guy. He's over 200 pounds. He's 6 feet tall. And Tank is like 5'4.5". And, you know, he's walking around probably like 150 max. Like, this is a huge size difference. And, you know, obviously there's there's also a very big skill difference. Yeah. But, I mean, weight does play a role in boxing. Size plays a massive role in boxing. And Jake obviously isn't he's still inexperienced. He's still, learning the ropes, getting there. But, I mean, he just got done doing a 10-rounder with Chavez Jr., and he didn't look horrible. I mean, it looked like his gas tank is getting a little bit better. There's still some questions to be asked, but I don't know, man. Like, it's this fight, I don't know if it's gonna play out like an exhibition match where they're just going like really like look pretty for the camera, kind of throw a couple jabs, maybe one or two big moments in the whole fight, or if like Tank is actually gonna go in there with the sole intention of knocking Jake's head off. I don't know.
Well, knockouts are allowed for the exhibition. That's one of the rules, right? They are allowed. The only thing is, so exhibition, typically that means that there's no winner that comes out of this. But the fight will be scored. I don't know for what reason. I mean, I'm looking here at the rules. This one dude, a promoter in New York, was pretty much saying like, yeah, it makes no sense like having them score the fight, even though it's not going to be put in their official records. But I mean, it's just for the entertainment side, so people can see like, okay, even though like the fight ended in the no winner, the scorecards had Jake Paul winning the fight, so it's one way for them to kind of like tell like, give him the unofficial winner in that regard. But I mean, I saw a lot of people talk about it. They also dropped the full main card for the Jake Paul and Tank Davis undercard, and I mean, you had the return of the 140 champ Gary Russell, and they're taking on undefeated challenger Andy Hiruka, something like that. I forgot. But yeah, you got like Alicia Baumgardner and stuff like that. So they have a pretty decent undercard for this fight, and which kind of surprised me because I feel in general MVP really relies on like Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor to like kind of carry the undercard, but so I'm glad they're finally branching out and getting other pretty key fighters in the boxing scene.
Yeah, I'm interested to see the viewer count, for this event because those two press conferences that they had, they didn't get many views on YouTube, and the people were poking fun at Jake and saying, "Oh, this is supposed to be the biggest card of the year," and they were showing the difference between Canelo Crawford's press conference numbers and Jake and Gervonta's press conference numbers, and they were massive difference. I mean, it was really, really big difference. So interested to see though, how that converts once we start getting closer to fight day, and during fight day, how much concurrent viewers we're gonna get, because Alicia Baumgardner, I mean, she's a champion. We've seen her around every now and then. She has power, so hopefully she can deliver a KO for the undercard, to get the people riled up and for the main event.
Yeah, I guess in regards to the undercard, which the main card, I was expecting a little bit more, to be honest. I mean, yeah, Jake Paul, Gervonta Davis, two very big prominent figures within the boxing scene, but I was expecting maybe a more well-known person on that main card. But I mean, it is what it is. Very curious to see as well. Yeah, the numbers that they're gonna get. If I was Jake, I would be like aiming for more than 40 million.
Yeah, definitely, because he could definitely stick that to Canelo and be like, exactly. I got more than you this year, obviously. And a funny thing as well, I believe a reporter asked Tank if he was the face of boxing now, or I don't know how the conversation got brought up, but I saw a Tank quote saying, "I'm not the face of boxing. I'm just a guy who boxes." So
facts.
It's facts. Yeah, he don't want all that responsibility. I don't think he's gonna be in the sport for that long. I think him taking this fight while he has a Lamont Roach rematch supposedly, I think it showed a lot of his character, and it showed a lot of what his plans are for the future, which is spectacles and not really legacy.
That's exactly what he said. I mean, I'm pretty sure within the first press conference, that was one of the questions that they were asked. They asked Tank, "Hey, what about your legacy? What about this?" And he goes, "I'm not really worried about that right now. I'm just worried about just fighting. I'm not. That's not on my mind at the moment." And in my head, I'm like, I mean, you are at the elite level within your weight class. I would assume that maybe you kind of want to leave something behind. I mean, if you truly are on the verge, maybe not on the verge, but like close to the end of your boxing career, maybe like, are you gonna in 10 years look back and be like, damn, that resume looks weak as fuck. Because I mean, we've said it before. I mean, there's only like 2-3 like names in Tank's resume that I can give him. Okay, yeah, those are really good opponents, but all the other ones, I don't really give him too much merit. And as of right now, I mean, I've said it before, his resume is kind of weak.
Well, I mean, he's also a current fucking 135 WBA champion. So on paper, he should be, or the organization should be enforcing challengers and mandating fights for him. And yet we have not seen nothing from the WBA, which is, you know, a pretty common pattern when it comes to them being very lenient to megastars who are champions in their organization.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to belts, we have to look at them as not just the belt, but an organization. You know, the WBA is an organization that would gladly have a Tank not fight the mandatory Lamont Roach and have him fight Jake Paul, knowing that he's going to get a very big bag. And so then the organization, the WBA, can take a little small percentage out of that mega fight purse. So, I mean, that's boxing. That's business. It happens. But, you know, I guess we just got to get used to this. I mean, it's always been like this.
It is true. Yeah, that is the politics of boxing. And that's probably why the boxing game should be bigger than individual boxers. But, you know, for another day. But what do we think about this fight, though? I mean, obviously, Gervonta Davis has much better skills. Night and day difference compared to Jake Paul. Jake Paul is still an amateur compared to Gervonta Davis, but he does have the size, the reach, and the weight. So, like, you know, who's gonna win?
Well, look, when it comes to Jake Paul fights, they all suck. Okay, they're quality wise, they're garbage. The only good ones, we've been following them for a while now. The only good ones I would say were probably the Gabe one, the first Tyrone Woodley, and then the Tommy Fury. Those are the only three ones I genuinely do like somewhat to a certain degree, but everything else is absolute garbage. And also, it's always underwhelming every time he fights, more so in just the quality that we're, you know, seeing on our screens. And I mean, I'm not really have high hopes for this fight at all. I don't really think it's going to be anything crazy. And honestly, I'm not even that interested in it. You know, they're branding it off as like, you know, the fight of the year, shit like that, or the card of the year, blah blah. But then you got like the Benavidez and Anthony Yard, and you got that whole undercard. I'm like, bro, you cannot compete with like a stat card like that and call your whole event like better than that or card of the year. But in regards to the fight, I mean, whoever wins. You know, if someone gets knocked out, it's gonna go viral. I mean, honestly, I really do not care that much about Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis.
Yeah, for me, I just hope someone gets knocked out. I really hope that it's not gonna look. I honestly can't decide. Like, I've been thinking about it. I don't know how the fight is gonna play out. I mean, for sure. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Jake Paul is on the front foot, trying to hunt down the little smaller guy, and just Tank going. Always being on the back foot and just waiting, and then have just a couple of eye-catching shots and then get out of there, or, you know, hug him, you know, clinch or whatever. That's kind of how I'm seeing it. Like, I don't really see Tank wanting to maybe, you know, risk himself. He could risk going for the knockout, because if he gets knocked out, that's going to be worse for him. That's like a lose-lose situation for him. But for me, I think that's how it's going to go. It's just going to go to a boring decision victory for Tank.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's a lose-lose for Tank unless he gets the KO. He has to get a knockout, or else people are going to criticize him. Because if he goes decision and he wins, okay, they're going to be like, they're going to pull out some clips of Jake Paul, you know, looking good, or Jake Paul might have a couple good shots in there, right? It's a 10-round fight. So he might land some good shots, and they're gonna criticize Tank. So I don't know why Tank is really doing this fight, dude. He just wants the money.
Yeah.
Like, he really just wants a couple M's, and it's like, bro, you already made. I assume you've made good money. Like, do you how much greed can a man possibly have? You know what I'm saying? So I really do think it's just about the money. I'm hesitant to say that he's gonna give it his all. I don't think he's gonna. I think it's gonna be on the back foot. You know, like you said, he's just gonna be waiting for a counter shot. It might never come. Jake obviously is a win-win for him unless he gets KO'd. And the size. Listen, so much weight. I don't think Tank is going to be able to knock him out. You know, unless he lands a picture-perfect shot, like a beautiful shot, yes. But I don't see it happening, man. With 50 pounds on a fighter and that size difference, Tank is going to have to be punching upwards, which you lose your power like that. Yeah. I don't see this fight ending in a knockout, you know, and I could see Jake winning too, just because of the size difference. So I don't know, man. It's going to be an interesting night of boxing, if you can call it that. Yeah. But we're just going to have to wait and see until, November? I think it's in November, something like that.
I don't remember.
Yeah, but another thing that
November.
Another thing that I want to bring up was the fact that the one time that Tank did go up, the highest weight class he had ever fought was 140. He struggled against Mario Barrios, which is not to say that he's not elite, because he's currently a champion at 147. Yeah. But at 140, 5'11", that's great height for someone to have at that weight class. And Tank struggled against a taller dude. Granted, he did stop him and drop him so many times, but he did have to find that not that courage, but like he had to like adapt in order to, you know, get the knockdown, because even like Floyd Mayweather was like ringside. He was like, you're down, and Tank was like, what? So I mean, he did struggle against a guy that was kind of tall. So now he's going up against a guy who's way bigger than Mario Barrios. You know, maybe we could see something like that too.
Yeah, it all depends. That's why I'm not really. I don't know. I just don't really care about this fight at all. But you know, I think the real winner from this whole entire clown show is Lamont Roach. I mean, Lamont Roach. I mean, he controversially lost or got the draw against Tank in a fight that many people believed he won. He was chasing for the rematch. Rematch never happened. Now Tank looks bad. And Lamont Roach, on the other hand, I mean, they're praising him. They're saying, look, this is the man who beat Gervonta Davis and is the man who Gervonta Davis is scared of. So, you know, now Lamont Roach has this narrative around him, you know, and I think rightfully so, because I think the rematch should have happened immediately, but it's apparent now it's Tank's side that didn't, you know, want to go for it. But I mean, now Lamont Roach, he's got other plans in his agenda and his schedule, and one of those plans is a showdown with Pitbull Cruz at the 140 division. Now that's a crazy matchup, and it's a little surprising, more so in the fact that it's at 140. These are rumors, by the way, but it's at 140. Where Lamont Roach just barely made his debut at 135, and now he's moving up again to take on Pitbull Cruz, who's, you know, a smaller guy, of course, but that dude is compact as a motherfucker. So it's crazy, and it shows you a lot about like the type of fighter that Lamont Roach is, for him to be chasing Pitbull Cruz and these, you know, like I said, rumors. But if this fight does come out as being confirmed for December, that's a big showing for Lamont Roach.
Yeah, very surprised. Again, there's still very much rumors, but yeah, right now Lamont Roach is looking like the, like, I don't even know how to call it, but everyone's praising him. Everyone's being like, oh wow, everyone was always scared of Tank, and you know, this guy at 130 moved up and made it look like Tank isn't even a dangerous fighter. He neutralized everything out of him, and not only that, but he's also able to dish it back to Gervonta Davis. So right now he's still riding high on that draw. You know, when those press conferences came out, you know, the reporters were asking Tank, why don't you fight Lamont Roach? Why didn't you fight Lamont Roach? And then Lamont Roach has taken a lot to Twitter, and he uploaded this meme, and it was captioned, every time Tank has to explain himself why he's not giving Lamont Roach the rematch, and it's Lisa Simpson like crying.
Yeah, man, Lamont is looking like the boogeyman of 135, and you know, now he's rumored to go up to 140, and I think it's a smart move, and it's a smart opponent pick as well, because Pitbull Cruz, former 135 pounder. So it's not going to be a big size difference. In fact, I think Lamont Roach might be a little bit bigger than him. I think he might be taller. Yeah. He might not be as you know, as wide, but I mean, that's really not that big of a difference. It's not really that big of a size difference. There's no size difference at all, I'd say. So, former 135 pounder, and Pitbull Cruz has a name. You know, he's an entertaining fighter. People like watching him, and he's also another past opponent of Tank, in which the narrative is that Tank ducked him, or that Tank was scared to give him a rematch. You know, some people, although I don't agree with this, some people do say that Pitbull did beat Gervonta Davis in their fight, and since then Gervonta has not wanted to give him a rematch. So I think it's smart by Lamont Roach to get this fight. It's a very good fight for him. He wants to get that. You know, he can. Let's say he's able to beat Pitbull Cruz convincingly. Boom, he's gonna have another way of attacking Gervonta Davis, and I think that's basically, I think that's his plan. I think, listen, the pressure is on Tank. Yeah. You know, that the fans want to see this rematch. So regardless of what happens with Jake and Tank, they want to see that rematch play out. So all Lamont's doing is keeping his name relevant by fighting past Tank opponents with big names that are going to make the fight interesting. I think, and it also gives him a chance to that gives him a foot in the door for the 140 division as a whole, because Pitbull Cruz is still a top guy, top 10, I'm sure, in a couple sanctioning bodies at the 140. So I mean, he was a former world champion. This is a very good fight for him.
You know what's funny is that now that you explain it in that way, that does make sense. I think you know, fighting a former Tank opponent and then him beating him, that'd be, yeah, I mean, that would be the best year for his boxing career. And he would have all these bragging rights and all this, you know, credit, you know, to his name. But if I'm going to be honest, I would maybe look for a different opponent. Because for me, I really do think, and, you know, we've criticized Pitbull, you know, in the past, you know, just being a one-dimensional fighter, you know. But I do think Lamont Roach is biting more than he can chew. I think Pitbull Cruz is just a guy that is going to give him a lot of problems. I think he was able to neutralize Tank very well, but I don't think he's going to be able to neutralize that Mexican, that little small Mexican bulldog. I think once Pitbull's team lets him off the leash, I think he's just going to go for the kill.
Yeah, it's an interesting style matchup. I'd say Lamont Roach can't fight Pitbull the same way he fought Tank, because in that fight, Lamont Roach utilized the Philly shell. He utilized the high guard, and he was kind of standing in front of Tank, kind of baiting him out a lot of the time. Well, you can't really do that with Pitbull Cruz. You can't stand in front of that guy. If you do, he's just going to continue to rain down 5-6 punch combinations hard, you know, throwing everything on them. So you can't really do that, you know. So, but I think Lamont Roach, I do think he has it in his arsenal to move a little bit more, to use that jab, kind of stick him. So if he's able to do that, if he's able to adapt his style, not stand in front of him, use the jab, use some lateral movements, I do definitely think it's possible for him to beat Pitbull Cruz, because listen, it's not rocket science to beat Pitbull Cruz. You just don't have to stand in front of him.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is also Pitbull is the interim for the WBC at the 140. So, like you said, this is a perfect opportunity for Lamont Roach to fight Pitbull, get the win, and then boom, get yourself right in line for a title shot at 140. Of course, he would lose in the title fight against Subriel Matias, of course. But, I mean, it would introduce him to the 140 division, and it would cement him as a top guy at the division, you know. And I feel like Lamont Roach at this moment in his career, I mean, only 30 years old. He's still relatively young. He can make legacy happen, and I think this entire Tank situation has really given him hope, or not even hope. It's given him the opportunity to showcase, you know, what he's made of. And like you said, it's not rocket science to beat Pitbull Cruz. It's going to be a hard fight regardless, just because of the style that Pitbull Cruz is and the fighter that he brings, you know, into the ring with him. But when you look at Pitbull Cruz against Rayo Valenzuela, the way that Rayo Valenzuela was able to style on him, I would say Lamont Roach is a technical better fighter than Valenzuela. and he's more stylistically capable of utilizing that same, stick and move style to a higher and better degree than Rayo did against Pitbull. So, and we have to keep in mind too, when Gervonta started doing his stick and move on Pitbull Cruz, it's when the fight changed and he was able to neutralize Pitbull himself. So, people always say Pitbull Cruz beat Gervonta. I don't agree with that. I thought Tank won the fight. I watched it like 2 or 3 times since then, and I still have Tank winning that fight. But Pitbull Cruz is no joke. 140 is going to be very interesting for Lamont Roach. Like I said, he barely debuted at 135 against Tank, and now he's moving back up to another new weight division. So it's going to be very interesting to see what Lamont Roach does if this fight does get confirmed at the 140. But I think it's a very smart move from the Roach man himself. But the 140 cooking up once again. At one point we regarded the 140 to be the best in boxing. Now it's of course the 154, but the 140 is still probably like top 3. It's probably the second best division in boxing right now. So with the introduction of Lamont Roach and Pitbull Cruz being a rumored matchup, and also a rumored matchup for 2026 between Shakur against Teofimo Lopez. Now those are mega fights, man. Mega fights, and let's talk about that. Shakur and Teofimo Lopez.
Well, I just want to mention something real quickly. I think so. This fight has been brewing up for a little bit. These guys have known each other since they were amateurs. Yeah. And recently, they were kind of like commentating both together. And, they were chirping each other, talking shit. And the funny thing is, Teofimo Lopez said, he's like, Shakur Stevenson. And Shakur was like, nah, ain't nothing sweet about me. So I don't even know if he likes that Sugar nickname that some fans be giving him, which is, I think it's kind of funny.
Well, too bad. I'm going to keep saying it. Shakur, man. Look, Shakur, last time he fought... oh my gosh, who did he fight last time? Oh, yeah, William El Camarón Cepeda. Yeah. And it was what a lot of people would say the most entertaining Shakur fight of all time. Yeah. Just because he was actually in the pocket more so than, being on the back foot. And brought out and easily was probably one of the best performances of the night for that card. But, last time he fought was then. Teofimo last time he fought was against Arnold Barbosa during the whole New York showing with Turkey. And he stunted on Barbosa. Barbosa performed like fucking garbage. Very underwhelming performance from him. And Teofimo was able to cruise to a very comfortable UD win over the guy who was supposed to be the guy to beat Teofimo Lopez.
Yeah, the guy that was going to give him his toughest test. And, Teofimo did it pretty easy, right? Yeah. I mean, yeah, so I guess within both of these guys' last performance, pretty good. But I guess just from, in my opinion, I preferred Shakur's performance. Like, he showed me a whole nother... It wasn't even just me. He showed the boxing world a whole different side of him. Like, him standing in the pocket like that against a guy who's very dangerous and wants his opponents to exchange within the pocket with him. He did it so easily. He was able to neutralize Cepeda's effectiveness, and then he was able to punish him multiple times throughout the whole fight. And then he just made it look so easy, and I was very surprised. And so, I mean, I can't go against Shakur now, even though he is moving up. Everything's rumored, right? But if he does move up to 140 and challenge Teofimo, I know who I'm going to side with.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Shakur wants that fight, and I think it's smart from him because we've talked about this before, man. Teofimo Lopez is Kryptonite. Guys that move. Sometimes Teofimo Lopez forgets how to cut off the ring, man. I don't know if he forgets or he gets too caught up in the moment or something. He struggles with that so much. Like, even Jermaine Ortiz, a guy that literally isn't even known for his boxing ability or his stick and move, his lateral movements. Teofimo Lopez had such a hard time in that fight. It could have been a lot more easier, but he just could not get him to stand in front of him. And he struggled a lot. So I think Shakur Stevenson is not going to fight the same way he fought El Camarón Cepeda. with Teofimo Lopez. No, he's not going to stand there and stand his ground and exchange with Teofimo Lopez because he's way more dangerous. He's way more of a one-punch power, explosive fighter than Zepeda. So he's going to revert back to his original, his original game plan, which is stick and move. Use that jab, use lateral movements, use your legs. And he does that so fucking well. And, once he gets in that groove, there's very few fighters that are going to be able to stop him. So I think it's a great fight for Shakur Stevenson, and it's going to be a very tough challenge for Teofimo.
Yeah, I mean, people, I remember we have those clips, us talking about Teofimo's Kryptonite, being, if you're like a pure boxer, moving, stick and move and stuff like that, being his Kryptonite. I always like the comments because they're always saying like, but wasn't George Kambosos not a stick and move fighter, but he beat him, therefore his only loss, therefore that's Teofimo's Kryptonite, which always makes me laugh. But look, here's the thing, if this fight is confirmed, of course it'd be for the title at 140, and keep in mind Teofimo at the 140 is the longest reigning champion. As of right now, we've been having a bunch of switches and stuff like that. But Teofimo has stayed. I mean, shit, but we got Matias, a 2-time champion during Teofimo's 1-time reign right now. So, Teofimo is the most active or most longest reigning champion at the 140. So I know for sure he wants to keep holding on to that belt. He did tease going up to 147 for a bit to take on Boots, this and that, all these rumors, stuff like that. But I think the 140 is best suited for him at right now, considering the fact there's so many big unification fights and so many big names that he can get into his resume, where he's got a good resume regardless. He's beating Lomachenko, he got Josh Taylor in there, and now he's got Barbosa. So if he keeps going like this, he can get a Shakur in there, and if he beats Shakur, that's a massive name to have on your resume. And the thing is, it's a big fight, of course. Taking on Shakur is going to be beating Shakur is going to be a very hard task to do. But Teofimo Lopez thrives under hard fights. Look at the Lomachenko fight, big upset. Look at the Josh Taylor fight when they were calling them washed up. Big upset right there too. So he performs when it's time to perform, and I know for a fact that he sees Shakur as another mega fight in his career. So you can expect Teofimo Lopez to showcase the very best side of him once again.
Yeah, look, that is true. I think once Lopez's back is up against the wall, I think that's when he performs his best. When he fought George Kambosos, Lopez was the A side. No one really gave Kambosos a chance, and one can say yes, he did lose because of medical reasons. But I think he was just really cocky. I think maybe he was just riding that high, and he thought he was really just super invincible. And he just looked at the Aussie at the opposing corner. And he was like, "Yeah, this guy's not going to beat me." But there's that. But here's the thing: I do believe Lopez is a guy who's very controversial. I'm pretty sure even his own fucking boxing promotion is kind of tired of his bullshit. The antics that he does inside of the ring and outside of the ring as well. But I do believe that he will go, if this fight is made for next year, he will go into this fight 110%. But we have to understand that he's fighting against a guy who is his kryptonite in two reasons. One, stick and move fighter. Two, he's a southpaw. Jermaine Ortiz is an orthodox fighter. And for the fight when he fought Lopez, he switched entirely to a southpaw and fought Lopez just like that, and did it pretty well, actually. Very much surprised that the boxing abilities that he showed that night. And Lopez didn't look the best. Now we're going up against a guy who is considered, a lot of people see Shakur as the Floyd Mayweather, almost in a sense that he stick and move, hit and move, doesn't really get hit, and just wins comfortably off of that. And so Lopez, he does perform his best when he is up against the wall, but I mean, it's going to be one hell of a fucking mountain to climb.
Oh, it definitely is. And, Tell, he's going to have to be able to cut off the ring, and he's going to have to really rely on his explosivity. He's a fast fighter, He's very athletic.
Yeah.
I wouldn't I think he really his boxing abilities. He has a great boxing ability, but I think another thing that helps him a lot is just how athletic he is, man. He's one of these fighters that he can kind of get out of position and it still kind of works for him. Whereas when you look at Shakur, I wouldn't say he's athletic. He's just a textbook, fundamental, down to the T, knows how to fight and box. So it's going to be hard for him. He's going to have to use that explosivity, man. He's going to have to cut off the ring and throw some very fast punches when Shakur isn't expecting them. He's going to have to test out that chin. Shakur, he started off his career at a very low weight. What is it, 126?
126 or 122.
So he's. I think the height-wise, I believe they're relatively comparable. It's nothing too major, but the difference is, Teo does got some muscle on him. He does have some muscle on him, whereas Shakur, he's always been kind of skinny. He's been growing into the weights and he's taking his time, but that's another weight class, 140, whereas Teo has been there a long time. So it is gonna be tough. And I love Teofimo Lopez.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of him, right? And, you guys saying he performs his best when his back is against the ropes. That is true. But Shakur, he's a dangerous fighter, man. And listen, it's going to be a hard fight. I don't want to see Teo get outboxed for 12 rounds. That shit would hurt me personally. so I'm praying that Teofimo Lopez really works on that cutting off the ring and devises a specific game plan for Shakur Stevenson because he's going to need it.
Yeah, it's going to be very hard to come up with a game plan, especially since we, even this last fight was probably the most exposed that we ever saw Shakur. And that's just because he fought a completely different way. But when you look at his fights, when he's fighting, his typical style of boxing, there's very rarely a flaw in his game. Yeah. So they're going to have to try to find some flaws, some holes in his arsenal that they can exploit. But it's going to be very hard. And it's one of those moments, one of those fights that you're just going to have to rely heavily on your training and rely heavily on, just making it as uncomfortable for Shakur as you possibly can. But Shakur shows that he can fight in the pocket too. Shakur is so good, bro. So that's why, bro. That's why I like Shakur, man. Yeah. Even though people call him boring, so I've liked him for a bit now, and I always said he was the best fighter at 135, and now if he decides to make a mark at 140, that's gonna be it's going to be very hard to pick between him and Subriel Matias, man. No, but yes, it's gonna be a hard fight, a big fight. It's one of those fights that, because Teofimo, Shakur were, they're two of the fighters who were regarded as, the four kings of the 135 during that whole, when Ryan was still there and Haney and Gervonta, I guess, were there, fighting in that same weight class. So it's good that we're finally getting to see, one of the pairs of the four kings actually coming together to fight, and I think it's very good for boxing in general, and very good for their respective legacies that they want to leave in the ring.
I think so too. I think the boxing world would be content if these two elite fighters decided to fight against each other. I think it would be good, but I think it would be better for boxing if Teofimo Lopez won. That's what I think. I think if Shakur does become a champion, that'd be so crazy. I mean, maybe I'm being a little bit biased because I do like Lopez, and I kind of would want Lopez to win. Mm-hmm. But it'd still be crazy to see Shakur beat Lopez, and then him being one of the four champions within that weight class. Because then all the unifications at 140, it'd be very interesting to see. If he decides to bring a new style to the weight class as well. I mean, he has moved up 3-4 weight classes now. So it'd be very interesting to see how he fights some of these other bigger guys like Subriel Matias. Gary Russell is another one, which is a dangerous fighter as well. So, I mean, I guess maybe I'm being a little biased, but I mean, yeah, if Lopez wins, cool. But if Shakur wins, I'm not mad at it.
Yeah, so, the fight is scheduled, or it's rumored to be in January of next year. So, I mean, it'd be starting off the year with a bang, right? That'd be a great way to start off the year, setting the tone, big fights are gonna happen this year, and I really do hope it. I hope it happens, right?
Yeah.
I want to see this fight. It is a little past due. I think they've kind of missed each other sometimes, with Teo going up to 35 and Shakur being at the lower weight classes. But Shakur is riding off his best career win. Teo is looking for a big name. Like we said, he was teasing about going to 47 and fighting Boots. So I think he's looking for a big name. Shakur Stevenson has that big name. He has the credentials. I don't see anything stopping this fight from happening, except, of course, politics.
Yeah, so we'll see. We have two rumored matchups at the 140. Like I said, Lamont Roach, Pitbull, Cruz, and Shakur and Teofimo Lopez. So the 140, if these fights do come into fruition and are officially confirmed, it gets the division moving once again. And, the 140 is always that one division that the champions just keep on fucking changing every other week. So, hey, man, we might be getting a new batch of champions sometime early 2026. We'll just have to wait and see. But I think we covered everything that we wanted to cover for today's episode. Let us know down below your official thoughts and predictions for these two matchups. Do you think Lamont Roach would style on Pitbull Cruz? Do you think that Teofimo Lopez would beat the odds and defeat Shakur Stevenson? Also, let us know about the official rules for the Jake Paul against Gervonta Davis. Do you agree with them? Are you guys going to be watching? You guys even care? Let us know down in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and also follow us on all forms of social media. We are on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Lastly, we're trying to build up a community on Discord, and you guys joining would be greatly appreciated. Now, this was Pablo, and I'm with Rudo and Asa, and this was the Last Round Podcast. Thank you for watching.